Today we're installing an inverter in this caravan, and we're doing it so that all the power points actually work. If you have a projector battery management system in your caravan like this one, then this video is definitely for you. Right, so what we've got here is two lithium batteries. You can see you've got various positive connections to each battery. That's I guess, yep, that's right. That's just a bridging cable, so that just bridges those two batteries. So we're going to want to be upsizing that because that's not going to carry enough current if we are drawing inverter loads from the batteries. So we'll be replacing this one. This is our main earth that runs out. We've got a bunch of positive connections here for things. We've got service battery, we've got a bunch of other bits and pieces. And then we've got our bridging cable. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be redoing all of this so that we have sufficient bridging between the two batteries so we don't see a voltage drop when we're drawing inverter loads. So we've only got this one earth, so we'll just be hooking that up to our new shunt, which is here. So this device is an external shunt that matches the projector battery management system in the caravan, and this allows us to get an accurate reading of the battery level when your inverter is running. Alright, so what we've got is our two positive connections. They're just loosely on there at the moment, and we've got this nice big, this is 50mm square cable that we're going to then use to bridge the two batteries. Effectively, you know, over this kind of distance, sort of 200-300 mil, the voltage drop across this cable is going to be negligible, which is exactly what we want. By the way, you might think it's a little bit weird that we've got a little bit of a curve in this cable, just to account for if there's any little bit of movement. It just means that that cable can flex. If you go straight across, that means that you're placing all of the strain on these bolts and particularly the lugs which are holding the cable in place. We just give it a little bit of a curve, and that means that there's just that little bit of room for it to move. So we're just going to take a quick break from wiring the batteries up, and we are going to mount our shunt. So we're going to mount this one over here on the outside wall of the van. It's right near the battery terminal that it's going to be servicing, so we have a nice short run between our battery and our shunt, and then along the side here is where one of our cable runs already exists. So that means we can just pick up our cable run right here and run the nice thick cable through to our inverter. So let's get this mounted here, and then we can move on to mounting our inverter where it's going to live. Right, so that's sturdy where it is. So now we'll make up a negative battery strap to run from there to there. Just worth noting, if you just run both off one of the batteries and just bridge it across, then there is the potential, not with cabling this thick really, but there is the potential that you draw down the battery that is on the near side or nearest to your current draw, and you draw less from your paralleled battery. So what we're going to do is we're going to just run them across like that, and that ensures that we get consistent current draw across both of our batteries. Next up, the negative battery strap that runs to the shunt. So this right here is the standard earth, and the BMS and everything needs to run through this. So every single earth for anything on the van needs to run through this shunt here. Otherwise the reading for your battery is going to be incorrect. And what we have here is the negative strap that runs to our inverter. Right, so I had to change things up a little bit. This is actually the near side battery, and this is our main strap coming from our inverter fuse. I've just rerouted things a little bit because this cable being fairly thick, it was just getting a bit too tetchy dragging it across here, and I wasn't able to restrain it properly, so I've just run it through this hole here straight to this very first battery. The next job to do is this is a line from this battery to power the shunt. So a shunt still needs a power source of its own. So you just pop that on there and you'll see we start getting a flashing light. Perfect. And then next up is this network cable. It looks like a network cable. That's going to go in there on the COM port. So this is the basically a jumper lead that is provided, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take this network cable and plug it in to this is a little adapter, so you just plug that straight in there. Then you're going to pull this plug, which is the LCD display plug, out. You're going to plug that into this jumper lead that you received, and then you plug that into your BMS. So that's a solar input. But then up here, for instance, if I put the load off, what will happen is you'll see your true battery in and out. Because even up here, it'll show you current, but that's through the BMS. Down here, along this little line here, you'll actually see what your true battery current that's in or out is measuring at. To make sure that nothing else is connected to any of the negative terminals on our batteries, because the BMS is using that shunt to measure current in and out. So with the 12-volt side of the inverter done and the shunt installed, the next step in the process is getting the inverter to feed all of the 240-volt sockets in the caravan. All right, so that's the 12-volt side of things done. Now the 240-volt side of things has to be done by a qualified electrician. So I'm not going to show you how this is done. I'm only going to be showing you what needs to be done. So when you have that conversation with your electrician, you can at least sound like you know what you're talking about. So it starts off in here. We have the changeover switch. So your mains and your inverter both come into this changeover switch, and you have an additional breaker there for your charger. This is the caravan's original breakers over here. And finally, this is the 240-volt to DC charger for the batteries, and we have that on its own dedicated circuit fed by mains only. Otherwise you get a closed loop in your system. And there you have it, one fully off-grid capable caravan. See you next time.